Go ahead and call this special commission meeting of November 12th. We moved the date from Veterans Day. I hope everybody had a wonderful Veterans Day and had the ability to thank a veteran for their service. Before I call the meeting to order, I want to recognize we are down two commissioners, Commissioner Martin and Commissioner Farnsworth. Both could not be here tonight, but they will watch the meeting as soon as they can. I have two changes to the agenda. One, we are going to remove item 3 under presentations. Wendy Sapp could not be here today. We'll see if we can't reschedule and get her to introduce herself. And then under agenda items, we are adding item 15, which is a change order for the municipal building re-roofing project. We know that's a last-minute change, but we'll explain it when we get to there. And all of your information is here on the dais for staff to go through with that. And with that, I will ask for an approval of the agenda with the changes that I have noticed. I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, from Commissioner Coleman, a second from Commissioner Norfleet. Any questions or other comments or changes to the agenda? The public have any questions or comments to the agenda? All right, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. I'd like to invite Reverend Joy Glanzer to the podium to give us tonight's invocation. If you would, please rise for the invocation and then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, which will follow.
Thank you. Please bow with me. Heavenly Father, we're gathered here this evening to do the work of the people. But truly, Lord, it is your divine agenda we seek to fulfill, and we're filled with gratitude for your guidance. Thank you for your many and abundant blessings in this community. Thank you for life itself, and thank you that we have the freedom to even say this prayer tonight, here and now. To our veterans whom we honored yesterday, may we remember that every day, that but for them, we could not stand here in prayer. So, Lord, we ask you that your light continues to shine from this very room out into our community, out into the world, and that the decisions made here tonight are made with your favor. It is your light that sustains us and breathes us. In thy precious name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Reverend Glanzer. We appreciate you being here tonight, offering that invocation. And our first presentation tonight is a certificate of completion for Commissioner Norfleet. Made it down to the Institute for Elected Municipal Officials and successfully graduated. So now you are officially an elected official, and we don't have anybody here to take a picture, so I'm just going to hand that off to you and tell you good job.
Mr. Mayor.
Oh, we have a picture. I'm sorry.
Right?
No, now we got to go down and take a picture real quick.
Yeah, we're going to put you on Facebook now. I was good with that.
We almost made it through. Yeah. All right. Good job.
I was not taking a picture of one night.
Well, we may joke, but that is a really important conference that we do and we go to, and we appreciate all the elected officials who take time away from their families and their lives to go down there and complete that. So all joking aside, we do appreciate you, Commissioner. All right, and then we have a special events update, which I believe Miss Amy is going to tell us about some special events happening. She's wearing about 5 hats tonight, so photographer, running the backstage.
And hopefully this is going to work.
If you can't get that to work, then nobody can.
It is.
Yeah.
Mayor Commissioners, Amy from the City Manager's Office. This is best time of year because I get to come and show you all the pictures from all the events that we've held for the last month and a half. We had the Newberry High School Trade and Career Day on October 9th. Your teams turned out, they worked together, facilities did a great job setting it up, breaking it down. We had over 37 different either education representatives or business representatives. The difference between our career fair and those that they do at other schools is we mix a match, or not even mix, we match a business with the education portion so that the students not only have a chance to go and talk to somebody, like our principal planner, Wendy Kinzer, was there, and they can talk to her about things about planning. Then they can go right next door and they can talk to a surveyor who was there. And then we have the education format from one of the different schools that were presented. So it really is a wonderful event. We had the 4 military options there as well this year. And what's really neat is this year we actually had a student say, okay, well, can we please bring in media next year? That's a new one that we haven't brought in yet. So the students are actually becoming involved in what they want to see. So it's really been a great team effort, and it has been received very graciously by the high school students. Then the second, of course, was our Florida Local Government Week on October 24th, and our city clerk puts this together for you every year, and she works and partners with the Newberry Branch Library. And this year we had a smaller number of students. We only had like 23 students this year, but we did have almost 15 neighborhood people, families that came out. So that was really kind of nice and was an encouragement. And all I heard from everybody was it was one of the best events that we've had yet. We had the bucket truck, the grader, the library had a Trivial Pursuit, and then Mayor Marlowe and Commissioner Tim Martin were both there, and they actually had a one-on-one with the students, and to where the students could ask questions. And I want to say probably our Parks and Recreation and what, a splash pad.
Unanimous.
Unanimous.
And to the number of kids, Ms. Amy, I would just say that from the perspective of our, tour there where the kids come, it was nice being able to have a smaller number that we could talk to.
It was perfect.
So not to discourage in the future getting more kids out there, but maybe our section could be the smaller one anyway.
Yes, it was absolutely perfect. It worked out well. And we have one little first grader who was there last year as a kindergartner. And this young man will absolutely ask you questions and tell you the answers when you ask him a question. So he may sit in one of y'all's seats one year. Our last and final event we had last November 7th, which was just last Thursday. We had our Arbor Day event. And this year, I heard all about our Charlie Brown trees in the past. Well, we did not have a Charlie Brown tree. We had a winged elm that weighed over 600 pounds. And the students got to take home a pine, but instead of a sand pine, they got to take home a longleaf pine. So as we're trying to propagate more of the longleaf pine, we were able to send 100 of those home. The kids loved it, enjoyed it. Our garden club prepared cookies, and we sent them home with a bottle of water, some sheets on, and then our Alachua County Dave Conser, I always want to say that backwards, Dave Conser from Alachua County was there, and he taught them about how to plant and how to care for. So again, a very, very appreciated and enjoyed event.
I'd say all 3 of those events were great. The community really did come out and enjoy them, and I appreciate the city for putting them on, everybody who's involved, and all those aspects. You guys did a great job and really represented and do very well. So thank you, and we look forward to them next year. I actually have one other error I need to correct on the agenda. 9 and 10 under public hearing ordinances. Those are the second readings of those ordinances, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Manager. So we'll be changing that in the minutes. Okay, so we do not have Wendy Sapp with us here tonight, so we'll move to our proclamation this evening, which is a prematurity awareness proclamation. Whereas premature birth and its complications are the largest contributors to infant death in the U.S., and whereas babies are not fully developed until after 39 weeks, and babies born too soon can have lifelong health issues and learning challenges. And whereas women should seek prenatal care in the first trimester to benefit from new strategies to prevent preterm birth. And whereas the March of Dimes reports that preterm birth rates have been increasing for 4 years, from 9.63% in 2015 to 10.02% in 2018. And whereas in Florida in 2018, the preterm birth rate was 10.3% above the national average. And whereas the state of Florida, the March of Dimes, and the greater Gainesville market of the March of Dimes, which encompasses the city of Newberry, works to raise public awareness of the problems of prematurity and to decrease the rate of preterm birth and infant mortality in Florida. And whereas the month of November is recognized annually as World Prematurity Awareness Month, to bring about recognition of this important topic, to increase awareness of the high rates of preterm births, and to support healthy pregnancies and prevent birth defects and infant deaths. Now, therefore, I, Jordan Marlowe, Mayor of the City of Newberry, do hereby proclaim November 2019 as Prematurity Awareness Month in the City of Newberry. Now, therefore, be it resolved that by virtue of the authority vested in me as Mayor of the City of Newberry, I do hereby proclaim November 2019 as Prematurity Awareness Month, in witness whereof I have hereto set my hand and caused the great seal of the City of Newberry, Florida, to be affixed in Newberry, Florida, this 12th day of November in the year 2019. And this has been attested to by our city clerk, Ms. Judy Rice. Ms. Rich, will you meet me down here to accept this?
Absolutely, and if I may just say a couple words
Please
here
do.
very quickly. I want to express my appreciation to the mayor for reading this in tonight and acknowledging the Prematurity Awareness Month and the March of Dimes. I'm actually a board member in the Greater Gainesville Market March of Dimes, and so we're doing some things to try to promote this awareness issue. And March of Dimes just came out with some statistics that where they go through a ranking process and a grading process. And the state of Florida actually graded at a C- when it comes to prematurity rates and infant mortalities and unhealthy births. So the state of Florida really is kind of lagging behind a lot of other states in this area. So we appreciate this acknowledgement tonight. Tammy Digert is the executive director of the Greater Gainesville Market. She's actually in Micanopy tonight because they're doing a similar proclamation over there. So I apologize that she couldn't be here tonight, but the local Gainesville Market certainly appreciates the city of Newberry's recognition.
It is our pleasure. Anytime you rank a C- in something like prematurity or preterm birth, that's something that we need to have our attention drawn to. All right, we've come to the time in the evening for public announcements. I remind everybody these are the non-controversial 2-minute kind. Welcome, Ms. Glanzer.
I'm non-controversial for Main Street, President of Main Street, Joy Glanzer. I just want to remind everybody, November 23rd, coming up Saturday after this Saturday, is the Newberry Fall Festival. We have over 80 vendors. We have,
Wow.
free things for kids, the bounce houses, the face painting, the balloons, the pony rides cost money, but we have entertainment, a beer garden. It'll run from 9 to 6 p.m. down Seaboard Avenue, and it promises to be even bigger than last year. That was a record turnout. So we hope you don't forget, and if you have any questions, let me know. We'll
will
have it on
be there.
Facebook and be
Absolutely.
there. Absolutely. Thank you.
Commission have any questions?
Okay.
All right, I'm ready for some face painting. Any other public announcements? All right, we'll move on to our consent agenda. I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as was published.
So move.
I have a motion from Commissioner Herson, a second from Commissioner Coleman. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, we're going to enter into a quasi-judicial, having trouble speaking tonight, quasi-judicial procedure at this point in time for the next 2 items. So I would like to ask the city attorney to go ahead and read into the record the ordinance that we're going to be considering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is ordinance number 2019-26, CPA 19-06, an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, amending ordinance number 4-91 as amended relating to an amendment to the future land use plan map of the City of Newberry comprehensive plan of 10 or less acres of land under the small-scale development amendment procedures established under the small-scale amendment provisions of Section 163.3187 Florida statutes as amended, providing for a change in land use classification from Alachua County rural/agriculture less than or equal to 1 dwelling unit per 5 acres to City of Newberry agriculture less than or equal to 1 dwelling unit per 5 acres on certain lands within the corporate limits of City of Newberry, Florida, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. I'm going to go ahead and explain the rules in the quasi judicial, and that is basically that all public testimony will be taken under oath. Everyone testifying will be subject to cross-examination. All documents and exhibits shall be entered into evidence. The giving of opinion testimony will be limited to experts, and closing arguments will be limited to the evidence of record. Can I go ahead and ask for any ex parte disclosures from the board? Commissioner Coleman? None. Commissioner Herson? None. Commissioner Norfleet? I don't have any as well. Madam Clerk, will you please swear in anyone who is here to speak tonight?
And I may just clarify, I think this item is related to number 10 on the agenda as well, subsequent quasi judicial. So the swearing in here will apply to both procedures. If we see somebody who enters the room, then we'll have to swear that new witness in if they plan to testify.
And to clarify, unless someone else enters the room, I will not be reading all these procedures again. Madam Clerk?
Brian Thomas, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You have been doing so.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so we have ex parte. We're all sworn in. We've read it into the record, and we are ready for the staff overview. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. This is the, as you pointed out, this is the second reading, and so this would be the enactment hearing. You have all hopefully remember hearing this before. It is the land use change for a property that was recently annexed into the City of Newberry, otherwise known as Pet Paradise, out on Newberry Road. Located almost adjacent to Dudley Farm. It's just under 5 acres. The application CPA 1906 was presented by their agent, which is EDA, Engineers, Surveyors, and Planners. They did apologize for not being able to make it tonight, but I assured them on the second reading with something that hasn't been controversial to this point, and they were probably okay with not being here tonight, though we always encourage them to be. It constitutes a small-scale comprehensive land use amendment, which is under 10 acres, which means basically it doesn't have to go to the state for review. We just report it to the state once it's complete. It is to amend from the Alachua County, post-annexation from Alachua County agriculture to the City of Newberry agriculture. And as I said, it's just under 5 acres. And so August 12th, the City Commission had approved the annexation, and then it was heard on first reading on October 28th. And so it's back now for the second reading, which will complete the land use process, and then the next step would be to rezone from Alachua County. It's actually split into 2 zoning categories, Alachua County. And so staff's, the Planning and Zoning Board recommendation on October 7th was to approve the CPA 1906 by the City Commission.
Does that conclude the overview and staff report and recommendation?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next slide, the staff recommendation is to enact ordinance 2019-26, approving the application for land use change.
All right. And I've not been notified of anybody wishing to claim third-party intervener status, so that will move us to public comment. Do we have any public comment on staff's presentation? Okay. And I'm going to slide all the way down to, does the board have any questions for staff? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Attorney, you want to advise the commission as to the applicable law and factual findings that must be made to approve or deny the application?
Well, again, we're governed by the substantial and competent evidence. This is the second reading, so I think for the most part, unless the commission has heard anything today that deviates substantially from what we heard the first time around, we're still governed by the same standard, and the motion should be based on that.
Okay, we're going to enter into deliberations. If there are none, we'll entertain a motion.
Motion to
approve ordinance 2019-26.
I have a motion,
Second.
and I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman, a second from Commissioner Herschel. Any questions from the dais on the motion on the floor? Are there any questions from the public on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. We will move to item 10, and we're going to go through the quasi judicial procedures again because Ms. Lisa had came into the chambers. So we're teasing you, Ms. Lisa. Mr. Attorney, would you please read into the record the ordinance?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance number 2019-26. CPA 19-06.
That was
2019-27.
Okay. It's not popping up on mine, I apologize. Yes. I apologize, it wasn't popping up on my iPad screen. Application LDR 19-11, ordinance 2019-27, a request by EDA Engineer Surveyor Planners, Inc., agent for Store Master Funding 11 LLC owner to amend the official zoning map by changing the zoning from Alachua County Agriculture A and Agricultural Rural Business ARB to City of Newberry Agriculture A on 4.86 plus or minus acres of land recently annexed into the city, located at 19518 West Newberry Road and identified by Alachua County parcel number 04265-008-000.
Okay. And since we are in quasi judicial, the rules concerning how this body will make its decision is that all public testimony will be taken under oath. Everyone testifying will be subject to cross-examination. All documents and exhibits shall be entered into evidence. The giving of opinion testimony is limited to experts, and closing arguments will be limited to the evidence of record. Do we have anyone new in that chamber who would wish to testify that needs to be sworn in? Hearing none. Do I need ex parte apply to this one as well, just because someone new came in? Do we need to go through ex parte?
No,
Okay, we
because
can
it
move
only
on.
applies to the commissioners.
Okay, perfect. And we will begin with the staff overview.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Segueing
Again.
right into staff recommendations.
Yes, sir. This is the same parcel, obviously. The difference being that this is the rezoning from Alachua County agriculture on a portion of it and agricultural rural business on the remaining portion. It would be rezoned by ordinance to City of Newberry agriculture on the whole parcel. We don't have quite the same zoning categories as the county. However, our zoning category of agriculture does allow by special exception this type of facility to operate in the City of Newberry. It's on 4.86 acres, as mentioned, and the existing use is small animal boarding facility. You all might remember the commission did direct staff to go ahead and draft an ordinance that would allow for that by special exception in City of Newberry agriculture zoning. It is contingent upon approval of CPA 1906, which y'all just approved. The special exception requirement in the back is to operate this type of facility. The applicant, after this process is complete, is putting together right now the special exception application, which is also, as I understand it, going to include a request for an expansion of the facility. And so not only are they joining the City of Newberry, they're going to expand in the City of Newberry, which we're really excited about. On October 7th, like the other ordinance that was before you, the Planning and Zoning Board recommended approval unanimously to the City Commission of CPA 1906. And staff's recommended action is to enact ordinance 2019-27 to approve LDR 1911.
Okay. Once again, I have not been contacted by anybody wishing to claim third-party intervener status, so that will move us to public comments. Does the public have any comments on what they've heard from staff? Okay. And we will move to members of the commission. Do you have any questions for staff? All right. Mr. Attorney, I'm assuming the same advice that you just gave is in effect?
That is correct.
All right, then we will close the quasi judicial and enter into deliberations. If there are no deliberations, I'll entertain a motion to approve or second reading of ordinance 2019-27.
Motion to approve ordinance 2019-27.
I have a motion
As
from
read.
Commissioner Hersom, a second from Commissioner Norfleet. Any questions from the dais on the motion on the floor? Does the public have any questions on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Are you grandfather?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I was just going to say, once this is done, I'm going to go meet the newest Newberryan, Jackson Thomas, who
This
just
is done.
arrived.
Go meet him.
Him.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Drive safe, don't speed. We said all those in favor signify by saying aye, and you guys said aye, right? While I was congratulating him at the same time. We did say aye? Yes. I heard aye. Did you hear aye? You got it. There you go. If it's written down, it's true. All right, that moves us to item 11, which is legislative public hearing and second reading of ordinance 2019-28, which is the ordinance opting out of the Alachua County tobacco minimum sales age 21 ordinance. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the opting out of the Alachua County tobacco.
Mr. Mayor, just for formality, let me read that into the
Okay,
record.
go ahead.
I threw everybody off because I didn't have the last one on my iPad, so I'll take the blame for that. Ordinance number 2019-28, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, amending Chapter 46 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Newberry to provide for tobacco sales regulations, notifying Alachua County, Florida, that pursuant to this ordinance, the City of Newberry has opted out of Chapter 65 and Chapter 67 of the Alachua County Code entitled Tobacco Minimum Legal Sales Age 21 Ordinance, declaring this ordinance to be in conflict with Chapter 65 and Chapter 67 of the Alachua County Code, providing severability, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict, and providing an immediate effective date.
Thank you. Now do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman. I have a second from Commissioner Norfleet. Are there any questions on the motion on the floor, comments on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, my only comment is that I did read an article by the Gainesville Sun that criticized this board for not inviting the Tobacco 21 lobbyist group out here to present to us. I was never contacted by the reporter that wrote that or offered the opportunity to give a comment to it. My comment would have been that I did watch that presentation when they gave it to the Alachua County Commission, and it was recorded and live streamed. And we publicly noticed our conversation, and no one from that PAC reached out to us and asked to come and present. So since I was not offered the opportunity to give that response to the Gainesville Sun, I thought I would give that response tonight. So is there any public comment on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously, and that will take us to agenda items. Okay, Mr. Attorney, this is the Charter Review Committee recommendations, and we left you guys with, or you guys left staff with a list of things that you wanted them to come back and think about a little bit more. So, Mr. Attorney, lead us through that list.
That is correct, and just as a brief overview that brings us up to that list, tonight's commission meeting follows the October 21st workshop that we had with all the commissioners and discussed the culmination of the proposed changes from the Charter Review Board, which was formed last year. And the first meeting for the Charter Review Board was August of 2018, and went all the way through for the next 12 months, meeting approximately one time a month, and coming up with some proposed changes for the commission to consider. It's also worth, just as some background for the commission, to keep in mind what we're trying to accomplish here in terms of a charter amendment. It's governed by Florida Statute 166.031, And that allows a governing body, such as the Commission of a Municipality, by ordinance to submit to its electors at an upcoming election the proposed amendments, and that is established by statute, and then our charter actually reaffirms that same concept. Currently, Section 53 of our charter, the provisions of this charter amendments, including any kind of repeal of any parts of it or its entirety, it follows the same legislative enactment process that I just pointed out in Chapter 166. So where we left it, our discussions following the October 21st workshop, I'll point your attention to Article 4, Section 10, regarding when a commissioner should take office following an election. And you'll see up on the screen that the board proposed changing the date. The current language reads that a commissioner shall take office immediately upon the official canvass of votes within 3 days after election. The new proposed language that we discussed at the workshop reads that there's a window of time, and a commissioner shall take office on the 10th calendar day after the election or as soon as practicable thereafter, but no later than 30 days following his or her election. And as some background on that, it was somewhat loosely tied to the fact that there are occasionally challenges to an election, and under the Florida statutes, there's a 10-day period where a complaint contesting an election can be filed after the board certifies the results. And so there were some considerations that were discussed at the workshop as far as whether this new timing would make sense. I think I pointed out that there was sort of the practical matter when a commissioner a new commissioner is voted in. There's a coordination effort with the commissioner in terms of getting family into town sometimes to be present for that whole process and experience all that. So is that part of it? And so tonight we just need to follow through with our discussion on that. And I think what I'm going to do, there's 4 or 5 others that I'm going to point through. I'm going to run us through, and then we can go back and discuss each of these items as commissioners want, as they feel necessary. So the next item that we discussed at the workshop that might need some additional deliberation is Article 4, Section 11, regarding minimum age to qualify for candidacy. Currently, the charter reads the age is 21, minimum age of 21. There was commission discussion on whether the minimum age should be 18. There was also some discussion of as far as whether by state law there was a mandate of age 21. Well, I think we went back and forth on that a little bit, but just to give clear directive to the commission, there is no state statute that mandates any age. So this commission is free to choose whether 18 or 21 or some other age would be appropriate. And then we talked about Article 4, Section 16 in a couple different contexts. One was the special commission meetings. Currently, the language allows the mayor or any 2 members of the city commission to call a special meeting. The board, again, the charter board, the charter review board, proposed the language be changed to add a little bit more flexibility so that the mayor, any member of the city commission, or the city manager may call a special meeting. And then the discussion, one of the suggestions among the commission at the workshop was to consider language that would read, special meetings may be called by the mayor and a member of the city commission. And there should be a comma after that. That's how it would read in the charter, or the city manager. So there'd be 2 ways to do it, the mayor and a member of the city commission, or the city manager. So there's 3 options up there for the commission to consider this evening. And Section 16 was also discussed in the context of emergency meetings, sort of a similar discussion. The current language allows the mayor or a city commissioner to call a special meeting. The workshop suggestion was that an emergency meeting may be called by the mayor and a member of the city commission, or, as an alternative option, by the city manager. Section 16, we also talked about notice requirements for the conference session meetings, which was a new type of meeting that the board has proposed, which again allows perhaps a scenario where a meeting can take place off-site at a specific location, not necessarily here at City Hall, but there would be no votes or no business that can actually be conducted in terms of a motion and approving or voting on a motion on the table. So there was a recommendation at the commission workshop to include a notice requirement of 48 hours for that type of meeting, which makes a lot of sense because the other types of meetings that are listed in Section 16 all have timing or notice requirements, so it makes sense to include some form of notice. We said 48 hours as a suggestion for tonight. And then Article 6, Executive Officers, Section 24, regarding minimum age. I'm not sure that this was specifically discussed at the workshop, but we felt, the City Attorney's Office felt it would be appropriate to remind the Commission tonight that since we're talking about the age of commissioners, we might as well also ask the same question of the Commission: what would be the appropriate age for city manager? Current age is 21, just like our current charter reads for commissioners. There could be some discussion tonight on whether that should be 18, and again, there's no state statute that governs us here. And then Section 27 in Article 7 regarding city elections, we talked about potentially posing a special question, a separate ballot question to the electors to see if there's interest in changing our current charter from a 2-year term for commissioners to a 3-year staggered term. And so just to give some reference to that, essentially this is not final language that we would submit for the ballot, but it would be something along the lines, it would be a separate question, separate from, do you want to amend the charter in the following ways? There'd be a second question that says, do you vote to extend the terms of service of the mayor and commissioners to staggered 3-year terms with elections for 2 seats occurring each year? Failure to extend the terms to 3 years will result in continuation of the 2-year term with spring elections. There's some language that fleshes out exactly how that would work. We thought for purposes of tonight, in terms of understanding how that would operate, that this chart might be a little bit more manageable way of understanding. I mean, the process would begin in the 2020 election, and it would be a process all the way through 2024 before we get to a point where all 6 of our elected officials are on the 3-year terms. So, and then generally speaking, just so how that would work, again, I think this was brought up at the workshop, but the actual full language of the amendments and the full charter would not be part of the ballot because we're limited to 75 words under statute. We would have to make the proposed amendments available at the City Hall and do our best to broadcast to the city of Newberry, this is what is going to be on the ballot. And so there's an opportunity for people to see those changes. If the ballot question regarding 3-year terms were to pass, there would be, in addition to a full set available at City Hall of all the amendments, there would be another section available for people to see in terms of how this would all be spelled out. So those are the items for discussion, and I would leave it to the Commission as far as how they would like to go about that tonight. And let me also just add too, and Ms. Judy may want to comment on this more at length, but in terms of the date for the election, there is a proposed timeline for a spring 2020 election held on April 14th. could do an alternative election in the fall of 2020.
Before we get it,
Okay.
let's go back to the very first consideration
Let's-
and work our way through that. We
Okay.
got an overview of everything we need to make a decision on.
Right.
So, right there, this one is just, do we want to mirror the 10-day waiting period and swear people in 10 days after, which breaks from our tradition of swearing them in the very next day? And again, the pros of it would be that it mirrors state statute, it mirrors state language. It gives the candidate or the incumbent some time to organize, bringing their family in. I'm not really sure there's a con to it, except that it just breaks our tradition. So we've just done it that way. Commissioner Coleman?
I think we can discuss this tonight, but without without a full commission, I don't think it's fair for us to do this tonight. Because this is very important. A lot of this has to do with our elections, so that's just my suggestion.
I agree. We've struggled to get full attendance when we have the charter but in front of us. Taking Commissioner Coleman's comment, let's actually skip to the end and talk about the calendar, and then we'll see how much time we actually have to continue putting this off. So let's talk about, if, so we've got our regular local election, which would put the charter on the ballot with seats 1, 2, and 3. Or we have the 2020, which would be the primaries. And then we have the primaries in August are the actual election in the fall. All three of those are available to us. And correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Judy, it's not possible for us to have a standalone on this because of renting the machines and all that kind of stuff. There's elections happening across the board, so it's one of those three options. Thoughts?
Well, fall is what's gonna, election is, am I correct, when the presidential election is, am I correct? So we're gonna have more turnout in the fall, more motivated voters to get out and vote. I like that. I'll wait and hear what everybody else has to say.
Okay. I mean, I think you'll absolutely get the highest turnout if you put our charter on the ballot with the president. Just a question of whether people will get to the end and vote. Other thoughts on?
One other thing is, I'm sorry, man. And also, I guess we're looking at cost. That's not having to get the citizens out there twice in 1 year.
Well, all of these they're already absorbed costs. So whether it's on our local commission or on the primaries or the general election, there wouldn't be an additional cost. We're already absorbing that cost.
But once again, it's still, we're not making our citizens for the whole reason of looking at 3 years, I believe, it's not having to make them have to show up every year. Here, you're gonna make them show up twice in 1 year. But like I said, I'll hear everybody else's thoughts.
I mean, everybody that's going to vote is going to vote in all three of these anyway, right? If I'm going to vote for 1, 2, and 3 seats, then I would be there. If I'm going to vote in the primary, I would be there. The only thing about the primary is if you're not a registered voter, you might not show up to vote. So I would say the primaries probably wouldn't be great because we have a lot of independents, libertarians. They may not be planning to show up for the primary because they're not on, their candidates usually don't make it onto the ballot. So I would say our April or the fall 2020 would be your fairest in terms of voter turnout.
Overthinking this to the point where what's the percentage of undervotes in the presidential election compared to the percentage of voter turnout in April?
Well, what our standard usual is about 700 to 800 voter turnout for local. I mean, I guess the counter argument is that the people that show up for the April election are people who are truly invested in Newberry. The people who show up for the fall election may not have the same local commitment. They're showing up to vote for a presidential candidate, and they may not take the same level of dedication to deciding to vote yes or no on the charter. The downside of putting it in April is now it becomes a campaign issue instead of just a standalone, let me just read the proposed charter and vote on it. I think if we go with fall, then we absolutely have time to put this conversation about the charter on hold. If we go with April, we may need to make a decision. Commissioner Norfleet?
If this is in the fall or the November, would this potentially cause more chaos at the polls for having a separate ballot for this?
It would be different because all of the Newberry citizens would not go to one precinct. You would go to your regular precinct, and just like when you go and early vote in Gainesville and you say I'm from Newberry or whatever, they will have specific ballots made up for us. So, and they have many. I mean, just if you've been to, early voting in Gainesville, there's many. Whoops, excuse me. So I discussed this with Kim, and there would be an expense, but I think it was very
And
nominal.
last cycle was the longest ballot I think we've ever had, and it was about 4 or 5 pages of stuff you had to work through to vote on.
I changed my mind. That's why I wanted to hear what everybody else had to say.
So what do we, our local April election, I hear that from one.
And I would support the April election, but do we have, if we put this off another,
Well, we've got
another
to,
mean, what's our time frame to actually get it, to be able to get on this?
can you
April
put that
ballot?
timeline up?
There's a calendar in the back of your.
Yeah, do we have it for the public?
It's not in the PowerPoint.
It's not in the PowerPoint, okay. Can we delay until, what, we're in,
So the first, just the election calendar in your packet, the first date is February 10th, Mayor presents proclamation declaring the
Right.
election.
Mr. Mayor.
so we have time? I thought we had
Mr.
to.
Mayor, the first thing I see on this calendar that's related to a referendum is on March the 12th. The February 10th is our general election stuff. You're proclaiming an election, and it has to do with qualifying periods and things of that nature for candidates. But Thursday the 12th is the first thing that I see that has to be to meet this calendar now that it's publishing the questions. So I think that we would have to get the questions prepared and approved by the board. Do we do that by resolution or by, it'd be by resolution, not by ordinance, I'm guessing.
I think so. The only ordinance that we're going to need for this is the actual ordinance approving the amendments. So the resolution, yeah, we can do that by resolution.
Mr. Mayor,
And that's one.
that's one reading.
That's one.
So I don't think there's to Commissioner Coleman's suggestion that this wait until we have a full slate. If that's 1 or 2 meetings, I think we have ample time to stay on track for an April election.
Okay. If that's the case, then I would say there's no sense in us talking about it tonight because we're going to have to rehash all that conversation. So we've got an overview. We've remembered what we have to, the decisions we have to make. Do we agree with Commissioner Coleman's suggestion that we'll table this conversation?
Yeah,
until
'cause
the
as
next
much as
meeting?
I'd like to talk about it tonight, I don't want to talk about it another night, too.
Okay, and I'll see if
Make sure they're
we can
here.
get a roll
Or
call.
at least 4 of them.
So that we can move on with this issue. Are we in a head nod agreement to that? Mr. Attorney did an excellent job presenting that agenda item. Well done.
I give credit to Andrea Parker. She couldn't be here tonight. She's in Micanopy, actually, but
All
this
right.
is her presentation. so.
It is. Okay, that will move us to the Grit Foundation affiliation agreement. And Mr. Manager, I believe you're going to take us through that.
Yes, sir. Is everybody comfortable if I just do this from the dais?
Please do so.
I am pitch hitting for Chief Buckner tonight, who is unavailable to attend the meeting. And so the GRIP Foundation, Mr. Mayor, is a 501c3 that was established to provide support services for first responders, personnel, police and fire. I think they primarily focus on fire. And they have proposed an agreement, an affiliation agreement with the city of Newberry that simply says that we agree to support one another in a variety of ways. The general sense that we understand from the GRIP Foundation is they're going to solicit funding, and they're going to use that funding to help fire departments fund things through some sort of a grant or scholarship program that we otherwise might not have in our budgets. So it seems to be a real win for the city of Newberry and the other fire departments in our region that are participating. So they've drafted an agreement. They presented it to us. The city, our team, staff team looked at it. The city attorney has reviewed it. And we also kind of got with other entities that are considering it. So there's consistency involved in what these finalized agreements are looking like. And so the agreement that is in your backup has been vetted by our city attorney and our staff, and staff's recommendation is approval, authorize the mayor to execute the affiliation agreement between the city of Newberry and the GRIP Foundation.
And I think we have a board member from the Grit Foundation. Would you like to add on to anything that was said here, or you think he covered it?
I think he covered it. I just wanted to.
You have to come all the way down, I'm sorry. We want to hear that he covered it into the record.
I just wanted to make sure that anyone had any questions, I could answer the questions if there are questions.
Mr. Mayor, could I ask her to introduce herself so we'll have it on the record,
Yeah.
please?
Jessica Norfleet, I'm a founding board member of the
Thank
GRIP
you.
Foundation.
Wonderful. Any questions for staff or Mrs. Norfleet?
Thank you.
Thank you. This is a good deal for Newberry. We really appreciate the support we're receiving from the GRIP Foundation.
Absolutely. This is the first time we've ever seen an affiliation agreement, so it's kind of uncharted territory. Mr. Manager, are there any obligations, responsibilities from the city by signing this? Because when I read through it, it sounded like there was a whole lot of obligations from the GRIP Foundation towards the city. Is there anything going backwards?
Mr. Mayor, I think primarily the responsibility is to be a good partner. I think that there's some opportunity for us to publicize the good deeds of the GRIP Foundation. That's one of our responsibilities in there. And also if they take video footage or things from happenings in Newberry, that we agree for them to use that footage. So, I mean, it's not onerous at any stretch on the city of Newberry, but we do have some responsibilities to be a good partner in this relationship.
Okay. Any other questions? Hearing none, anybody want to entertain a motion? Commissioner Norfleet? I have a motion to approve from Commissioner Norfleet. I have a second from Commissioner Coleman. Any questions from the dais on the motion on the floor? Any questions from the public on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Before we move to charter officer evaluations, is there a similar feeling on the dais that we need a full dais to have that conversation before we entertain that? There's definitely, absolutely no rush on this one. So before we spend any time, do we want to wait for that? Your evaluations are in, it's just about going over them and reviewing them, but I just want to make sure.
That was going to be my question with having the reviews from the absent commissioners, what more or less would?
Just
they
their
be
ability to
right?
speak to whatever they said in the evaluations, I guess, would be the only reason we might push it to the next meeting.
You know, as I look at the summary of scores, they were 5s across the board for both of them, so
move forward? I just want to make sure before we
I just
move
soon
forward.
get some city
Okay.
business done today.
Let's go ahead and move forward with the charter officers evaluation. I believe we have, do we have a slide or anything to go through? I mean, we don't have anything to put up? Oh, I thought we had a little presentation. Well, absent the presentation, I want to say thank you to our charter officers for the work that you guys have done. Clearly, that work is valued, and you can see it in the evaluations that you received. So the next question obviously would be, do we want to, for our executive officers, match the same situation that we do with our regular employees? Which, and correct me if I'm wrong, we don't have Dallas here, but it's 4%, right, so based on the evaluations they would get, but it's not a one-for-one scenario. It's a category, right? So if you get the highest valuation, you fall in one category, and then it kind of staggers back.
That is
I'm
correct.
fumbling here because I don't remember the exact.
Mr. Mayor, the city commission authorized for our staff team merit increases of up to 4% and asked us to develop the scheme by which we offer those raises. And so the scale that we've been using is anything up to 3.0, no, up to 2.0 is no merit increase, because 2.0 is the, 3.0 is the base. That meets expectation. So and then from 3.0 to 3.4 results in a 1% increase. 3.4 to 3.8 is 1.5, and the scale goes up. I guess I should say, since we don't have it available, we would use the same scale that staff uses for the rest of our team. That it's the one we've used every year for the last 3 years, because the commission has awarded 0 to 4. It simply divide the scores. You end up, it's a range of 0.6 per 0.5% of evaluation. So anyone ranking above a 4.6 would receive a 4% increase, and anything the next 0.6 down would be a 3.5% increase, and et cetera.
So I have a head nod to treat the executive officers on the same scale as the rest of the employees. Okay, and then let's read the resolution in, and then that'll put something on the floor that's specific for us to discuss. Anything to add to that, Mr. Manager?
Mr. Mayor, per conversation that you and I have had.
Do you want me to have that conversation, or do you want to?
Well, either. I don't mind sharing it, but I just wanted to communicate before we go into a resolution that our budget includes a merit increase, potential pay increase for a manager, just like any other staff position. There's a presumption of potential pay increase. Given where we are in our budget and our accomplishments and some things that I feel are very important for our team, our staff team, I prefer not to take any sort of merit increase this year, and rather ask for the commission's authorization to take that dollar amount and move it over into a professional development fund, so that we can get it to our team in training, and so we can just enhance the 65 employees that work for the city, rather than just benefit the bottom line of one employee. And I don't want you to get the impression that I don't appreciate it or that I don't desire it. I just think I am all in for the city of Newberry, and I think this is the right step to make us the greater organization that I think we should be.
And I certainly appreciate that sentiment, and I would support that sentiment at this time. But I think eventually our manager is going to need to accept one of these, because I think this has been a few years that he hasn't, and we all appreciate that team spirit, Mike. But we also want to make sure we are recognizing that the work that you put in on behalf of the city of Newberry. I think if the commission wants to, we could go ahead and adopt Resolution 2019-38. with the manager's amendment to it. And at least there we could have the symbolic gesture that, you know, we believe he's warranted. So now, Mr. Attorney, would you please read that into the record?
Sure thing, Mr. Mayor. Resolution number 2019-38, a resolution of the City of Newberry, Florida, providing for merit pay increase for city clerk commensurate with an evaluation by the city commission, providing for merit pay increase for city manager commensurate with an evaluation by the city commission, repealing all resolutions in conflict and providing an effective date.
And Mr. Attorney, do we need to make an amendment that the managers would go into the professional development, or can staff just do that? Does that need to be part of the actual?
The motion should include that amendment, and then the city attorney and staff will work together to revise the
Bring that
language
back.
of this. We won't
Okay.
need to bring it back to the commission.
You'll have it. We
As
got
long
it.
as the motion passes tonight.
Okay. Do I have that motion with the amendment?
Motion to approve Resolution 2019-38 with the amendment that the city manager's merit pay raise is transferred to professional development funds for city staff.
Okay, do I have a second? I have a second. I have a motion from Commissioner Hersum, a second from Commissioner Norfleet. Any questions, comments from the dais? Commissioner Coleman?
Yeah. I just want to thank Mike New, our city manager, for doing this. Ever since he's came on board, I believe it, I'm not sure when that first one came about, but he did that. And I do know you're all in. Thank you so much.
Any other comments? Commissioner Hersum?
And certainly, evaluating the executive officers of the city, it's a pleasure to be able to evaluate such good staff, good people, and so it certainly makes our job as commissioners easier, having great people working for us, and so I appreciate that. And I certainly appreciate the sentiment of providing people, staff resources to train them so well that they can leave, but keeping them so happy that they don't want to leave the city as an employee.
Absolutely. I'd say the same thing. I mean, it's both of you. I call you up all time. That's all I can ask is that you answer the calls and want to ask the questions. You work as hard as you can to put it together, and no matter what, how crazy, because I know I come up with some crazy ideas, you always figure out how to talk me off the ledge or make it happen, one or the other. So I appreciate the both of you. Public comment.
Jim Stainfield, citizen. Although I appreciate Mike's willingness to forego the pay raise, I would be against that. I'd like him to get the pay raise. I think he deserves that. You guys have a slush fund that you guys could use to fund the training and development, the $50,000. I would suggest you give it to the man that deserves it. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Other public comment? Okay, hearing none. I won't object to the slush fund comment. I know what he meant. Okay, hearing no more comments. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you both. And that brings us to item 15, which is change order for municipal building re-roofing project. Mr. Manager, you want to take us through our roof over there? What's going on with our roof over there?
Absolutely, Mr. Mayor, and I've transmitted a couple of emails to this effect, so I'll summarize as promptly or quickly as I can. Back in August, the City Commission authorized the award of a contract to Professional Roof Systems based out of Hernando, Florida, in the amount of $26,800 and change to re-roof our municipal building. That bid included, or that contract included, some some unit cost adds for work that we anticipated, but couldn't quantify due to the fact that roof was covered up. We couldn't see if there was rotten wood or not, but we anticipated there'd be some rotten wood, and so we asked our bidders to give us a price to replace rotten wood and to replace rotted rafter tails. So when we got into the work began a week ago on Monday, and contractor began removing the roofing materials and the underlayment, and we anticipated, and we determined that there's a little bit of a curveball. The wood decking was deteriorated in some place, but the rafter tails were, you can't look at the rafter tails from the ground or with the roof deck on them and tell what the condition is. So we removed roof deck to evaluate a couple of the rafter tails and determined that the ones that looked completely fine from the ground or from a face-on inspection were actually rotted underneath the roof deck, and that the rafter tails are not connected to the rafters. They are stuck through the wall, and they are just supporting a roof with nothing but the wall beneath them to hold it there, and which didn't meet code. So realizing that our unit cost line items weren't the right tool to fix the job. As a matter of fact, if we carried out the math on them, it would have been a super expensive change order, more than the face value of the contract. Our team got together and came up with an alternative plan to work in partnership with the contractor. He provided a change order quotation to replace the lower 3 foot of wood all the way around the perimeter of the building for $4,000. The city is partnering with them. We're obtaining the materials. We're going with a cypress material that's less susceptible to rot than the current pine. We're replacing every rafter tail because in our thinking, that's the only way that we can put that roof back up there with assurances that this building is being properly preserved, and it's on our seal, for crying out loud. We felt like we couldn't let this building fail, or we'd have to change the whole seal, the whole city seal. So we worked out with the contractor. We negotiated a change order. The change order amount exceeds the manager's approval. You approve the contract with a 15% threshold for city manager approval. This exceeds it by a whopping $96. And so in keeping with our policies, I'm here asking for the city commission to authorize the execution of a change order, $4,000 to replace rotted and deteriorated roof deck, subfascia board, and rafter tails at the municipal building. And in addition, we think we are through with the change orders. We think we've seen everything. But as soon as I say that, we will have another change condition come up. So in addition, I'm requesting an additional $2,500 to for any change orders that may jump up between now and the end of our project. We think that this work will take about 3 weeks beginning yesterday, because we've already began ordering materials and things of that nature. And with that, I'm available for questions if the commission has any.
Commission questions? It's taken us a long time to get to this part. We don't want to wait any longer. We've been through the historical board twice.
Correct.
Hearing no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve
Authorize
authorize additional funding of 2,500 plus the 96?
Well, let's just say authorize both items
Just
1 and 2.
1 and 2.
Authorize items 1 and 2, and, okay.
All right. I have a motion to authorize recommended actions 1 and 2. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman, a second from Commissioner Herson. Any additional questions from the dais on the motion on the floor? Any questions from the public on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. And that brings us to comments. City Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just some quick feedback regarding the performance approvals. I appreciate the thoughtful feedback from our elected officials. I'll strive to address constructive feedback related to opportunities to improve my performance. I am honored to serve the commission and the residents of Newberry in the capacity of city manager. I genuinely mean that. I'm pleased and very proud of the accomplishments that have occurred in the 5-year period that I've had an opportunity to serve you all. And I view our relationship and with the citizens as a partnership of sorts. So I find the work very invigorating. I'm enthusiastic about the work. 5 years later, I'm more enthusiastic about the work, and I look forward to upcoming challenges. I'm excited about the future workload that we have as staff and the good things that are going to happen in Newberry. So thank you all for that feedback. Mr. Mayor, I was also, I think, let me pick the right word. I was blessed to attend a Veterans Day celebration at Oakview Middle School. Boy, that school just really has the world's best Veterans Day celebration. So, I'll admit in all candor, I showed up just not remembering how great it is. Every year I show up and I kind of underappreciate how great this is going to be. And as soon as I get there and I see the color guard and I hear the band playing and the speaking presentations, I'm left with a wow factor. So I again was left with a wow factor over what Oakview Middle School here in Newberry does for its Veterans Day celebration, and I want to share that with you all. It was the best Veterans Day I could ever remember, and at that celebration and just watching my Facebook feed, my Facebook friends know how to celebrate Veterans Day. Mr. Mayor, also we have a lot of upcoming, this is my last comment, upcoming holidays. We have Thanksgiving, we have Christmas holidays. That means a lot of time off for staff, a lot of days where City Hall is closed or city offices are closed. Just to give you assurances that we've put together a staffing plan to make sure that every office is staffed by someone every day that we're open for business. We'll be open Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, the week of Thanksgiving, and the week of Christmas. Christmas falls on a Wednesday this year. We have 2 days off, so city offices will be open Monday and Tuesday. Tuesday being Christmas Eve. We'll be closed Wednesday, Christmas Day, and Thursday, the day after Christmas Day. And then the next week, we have 1 day off for New Year's Day holiday. I do not believe we get New Year's Eve, but I'll have to verify that. At the next meeting, I'll confirm the New Year's week work schedule. That concludes my comments, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Mr. Attorney?
I'd like to echo a lot of the same comments that Mr. Manager alluded to with respect to the evaluations. I want to thank the commission for giving us the feedback, constructive feedback. We will definitely, we don't have all of our team here tonight, but I will commit to you that all those comments from all the commissioners will be discussed internally at our office with all the attorneys who do work for the city of Newberry. I want to thank you, obviously, for the ongoing opportunity to continue to represent the city of Newberry. We enjoy working with all of you folks in that regard. So do appreciate the feedback. And then we are getting down to the wire, as Mr. Manager just pointed out. We do have the holidays coming up. I want to just remind everybody one more time, maybe I'll get another chance before December 5th, but you may not hear from me again here, I'm not sure. Thursday, December 5th, ethics training at our office from 4 to 8 o'clock. So we hope to see all of your faces there and plan to have a really good powwow session there. So that concludes our comments.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. And they do put on a very nice ethics training. There was cheese and snacks and comfortable chairs. And it was, do you have any other cities that you invited? Because that was one of the most enjoyable parts, was getting to talk with some of our sister cities.
We will have our Alachua County clients, Archer, Micanopy, High Springs, Newberry, and then there's a new face in the mix. Stark will be there from Bradford County, so we can haze them a little bit if you guys feel the need to do that.
Absolutely. All right, thank you, Mr. Attorney. Madam Clerk?
Along with the city managers and city attorneys' comments, I just want to thank the city commission. It's a pleasure to work with you all. It's a pleasure to work for our community and our citizens, and I do appreciate the comments, and I will continue to strive to be the best city clerk that I can be. And I do have one other. Thursday, our Alachua County Supervisor of Elections will be here, Ms. Kim Barton, and she is, actually, we're hosting her and her staff. You are invited to a conversation with the Supervisor of Elections, opportunities to serve in 2020. So this is for anyone who would like to have a conversation with our Alachua County Supervisor of Elections and to learn about serving, volunteering, poll workers. So I really wish that we could get our people, our citizens, and our elected officials, if you can, to be here. I think it would be beneficial, and also give you an opportunity to get to know our Ms. Barton better. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And I would,
It's at 6 o'clock Thursday night here in the Commission Chambers. I'm sorry. Yes.
I'm going backwards. I'll echo that Supervisor-elect, they've done a great job communicating with the schools. They've dropped off flyers. They've tried to advertise it. So hopefully we get some citizens to turn out and meet and learn about what's going on and how they can get involved and volunteer. So is that all, Madam Clerk?
That is it. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Coleman.
All right, I got three things. Sorry, Miss Judy, I can't be here for that. You do a great job, and you deserve everything you get here. And thank you for all the support you give me through all these elections and everything. You deserve it. And the reason I can't be here is we're leaving Thursday morning, or we're leaving at 2:30. Your Newberry volleyball team is going for the state championship at Suncoast Credit Union Arena. I guess the students are going to be lined up at 2:30, students and all the citizens, to be there to see all these guys off. And I'm hearing, I don't know if this is true, that it's going to be Friday, a watch party at the school?
We are trying to organize it. It's difficult because the game starts at 2:30 or 2:50.
2:30.
2:30, so it's just about 10 minutes before our bell rings. So we are, so you got the buses coming in and going, all that kind of stuff, but we are going to try to figure out some place where kids that don't have Wi-Fi at home or can stay around, we can all sit there and watch together.
Okay, we're playing Sneeds. We played them 3 years ago, and they beat us in 5 sets. And they came down here this year during the regular season and beat us in 5 sets. It was 2-2. It was tied, and they got a great team. Of course, they got a 6'4" middle. Wow, it's unbelievable. Blocker, like a blocker, unbelievable. But I really think these girls can do it. I really do. And I want to thank Mayor Conrad and Mike New with FNMA, because today we got the great news that the city of Gainesville, with FNMA and all, is the highest electric rate in the state of Florida. And I'm not saying that we're the lowest, but we're always in the middle. At least we're in the middle. We're average, and I like being average when it comes to our electric rates. So I want to thank those two for staying on top of it and going down there. I know are you off of it now, or is it?
Mr. Mayor, I'm on the executive committee for the Florida Municipal Electric Association, and I'm the alternate for the city's position with the Florida Municipal Power Agency. So, yeah, I'm still engaged, just not quite at the level that former Mayor Conrad is.
And that's all I got.
All right, thank you, sir. Commissioner Herson?
The only thing I got is, as I looked through Commissioner Farnsworth's evaluation of the city manager, if he follows through on Commissioner Farnsworth's suggestion to become an FSU fan, we could rescind that 4% raise.
I agree. That's aligned. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I think whenever I was relaying my position, I said I appreciated the thoughtful feedback and that I would strive to address the constructive feedback, purposely omitting Commissioner Farnsworth's comments to me.
Is that it, Commissioner Herson? Yes. Thank you. Commissioner Orfley? I want to, as well as a state run for the volleyball, we are also entering the playoffs for our football team, and that game is this Friday. We get to host it here. So kickoff regular 7:30 p.m. and we are playing Chiefland. So should be a great turnout. I hope our local businesses are ready for some Chiefland folks to come over here and get some good barbecue and pizza and those kinds of things. So hopefully everybody is ready for that game. We had a great week of local high school sports.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'm curious as to whether the city of Newberry has a friendly wager with the mayor and city of Chiefland with something that has community pride at stake.
That's a wonderful idea. I have to reach out to the mayor of Chiefland, see if he's willing to wear a Panther shirt after we win on Friday night. I feel pretty confident I would not have to reciprocate. I don't have any baby blue stuff anyway, so. And then on a personal note, I believe this is the first commission meeting we've had since the Mayor's Masters. And the Mayor's Masters this year, which is the third annual event that we've had, it's to support veterans in time of the holidays, and this one was tremendously successful. It blew everybody's expectations out of the water. Of course, we've got an ambitious goal that we've set forward. An entire board has been created to try to see this vision on through, and there's lots of boxes you have to check when you have something this big that you're trying to do, and the first one is, can you raise the money? And we did that on November 1st. So this community, when you say you're going to do something for veterans, they really come out to support you. And I look for big things to come out of that project in the near future. So I want to thank all the businesses, our title sponsor, Paint Solutions, but really from top to bottom, every whole sponsor that was out there, everybody that came and played, there's just so much gratitude coming out of my heart for this community and everything that you guys did to make that happen that day. So, and that does it for my comments. Public comment.
Good evening. Lisa Tate with Newberry and a citizen. I just wanted to let the commission know where the farmers market is having some growing pains, and we just started it in March, as you all recall. So listening to the vendors and hearing what they have to say, starting December 7th, the first Saturday, we're going to try a Saturday market. The time change, we tried to extend hours, we've just done a couple of different things. We certainly have the location, and I think if we can tweak that and get that right. Our mission always was to not compete with Gainesville, and I know there are several Gainesville Saturday markets. I don't think that's going to be a problem for us. Our vendors don't think that's going to be a problem. Our mission always was to look to the western part of the county. We want the smaller farmers. We want the people who don't want to get into Gainesville and get in that. So we are going to do 2 more Tuesdays, and then we will take the week of Thanksgiving off, and then starting the first Saturday in December, we will do a 9 to 12:30, and we'll tweak those hours as need. So when you see us out there on the Saturday mornings, please stop by. We're going to try to get some breakfast food vending and just kind of see if we can spruce it up a little bit. So,
I like that, yeah.
thanks.
Any other public comment?
Joy Glanzer, citizen. I missed the opportunity during agenda items, charter officer evaluations, to make a comment. And I had the great opportunity to serve with Mike New and Judy Rice during my 2 years as a commissioner. And by far, their guidance and direction made it easy. I never had a question unanswered. I never had any failure to understand what questions I had to be answered. And I just wanted to thank you personally for that. And I know this board is so gracious to have you and lucky, and this whole community appreciate you. And thank you for your service.
Thank you for that. Other public comment? Hearing none, we are adjourned.